Well, this is Newcastle upon Tyne, or Newcastle, as they call it round here. Home of shipbuilding, beer, football, the Tyne Bridge. See, it's all tremendously visual around here, and of course, where it's visual, people come and do a bit of filming. Remember Get Carter, Stormy Monday, a year or two ago, and of course the Likely Lads. And where you're going to get people filming, you're also going to find cinemas. For once, I'm in a cinema that I've been in before. Today, it's called the Tyneside Cinema, but in my day, many years ago when I lived around here, it was called, I think, just the New Cinema. Those days when people would pop in to just get an hour's news and cartoons at the end of a hard day's shopping, well, that's all long gone, of course. But I used to pop in and out occasionally. I saw myself as a bit of an intellectual in those days. I still laugh when I think about that Tom and Jerry festival they put on.
Oh, blimey, yeah.
Well, as far as I know, this hasn't changed since I used to come in here.
The only thing that's changed is the colour scheme. The decor is the same.
I just thought, oh, it's an old quaint cinema with a look of pre-war.
It's exactly the same. It's magic.
Yeah.
It's so nice to know that you know, it's still here. Oh, I used to sit here. Of course, I'll get in for nothing.
Of course you did, because family business.
Top dog.
Now, you talk about your family having an association with the cinema. What sort of association was that?
It was always my father. He was chief projectionist here. Yeah. For years, as long as I can remember, when I was 6 years old, he was chief projectionist. Then he eventually came and finished here as cinema manager.
Did that mean you got him free?
Always. Always. I also saw a few of the charrettes.
You see, my memories, I came here myself when I was a student in the late 50s, early 60s. The Film Society used to meet here, of course.
Tyneside Film Society.
You'd sit and watch Citizen Kane every month, and, well, I don't know why they didn't get another film, really, but anyway, it was very enjoyable. We could come and sit here. So it was hired out to organisations, wasn't it?
Also, on the Saturday, it was for children as well, on the Saturday. They used to have the
matinee?
The matinee.
Pistol-packing, knife-toting, catapult-carrying kids who every Saturday morning submit to a rigid disarmament program. Where and why? At a cinema, where the management like all the rough stuff to happen on the screen. Not till the last would-be desperado has passed inspection does the manager think it's safe for the show to go on.
Now, Mike, who was your favourite cowboy?
Oh, it's got to be Gene Autry, innit?
Was it?
Yeah.
Not Roy Rogers?
Not Roy Rogers. Couldn't stand him. Couldn't stand him. Gene Autry was the lad for me.
But of course, a cinema like this, the News Theatre, as it was called, served a different function, didn't it, to the bigger cinemas? Because there was, a show for, I don't know, an hour and a half, and housewives might pop in if it was raining or whatever to get the weight off the feet.
Sure, yeah. It used to be, I would say it was the forerunner of the documentary that we have on television now. Those days there's no television. And it would be an hour show. It would be local interest or foreign interest, but a short film. And you'd come in, quite right. They'd come in if it was raining. They didn't want to wait for a bus or getting soaked. They'd come in here for an hour. They weren't going to be sat here for hours and hours. They're going to see something they wanted to see. And then afterwards go up, coffee upstairs, discuss it. Well, the coffee room was a meeting place.
An essential part of community life in Newcastle.
It was, yeah, it was. Thankfully, the building is still here. It's marvellous.
But were you aware then that the whole function of the place changed? And suddenly it's not just a place to pop in for a coffee, it's an alternative to mainstream cinema. They show you some of the films here you might want to see, but won't see at the big cinemas.
That's right. And that was the function originally. But it was privately owned then. Scott family owned it.
Oh, yes, Mr. Scott's been mentioned before to me. Isn't he a member of the same family as Ridley and Tony Scott?
I've heard that. I can't confirm that.
So your father worked for Mr. Scott then?
That's right. But then it was taken over by a consortium, and I think that was the start of the change of the function of the News Theatre, yeah.
Did you ever see him?
Many a time. He visited our house, usually at Christmas, brought the turkey, the usual thing, you know. The boss brings the turkey to the family. Yeah, he's a smashing fella.
Do you think there'll always be a need for well, a cinema like this?
Well, that question was posed earlier on when the cinema changed. This is still here, different function, but the building's still here. And I hope in the future that it won't change. The function might change, but as long as the deco and the building stands, fine. I don't think there's going to be any change.
Yeah, but like for a little kid that's, I don't know, wants to be an engine driver, if his father's an engine driver, he gets a chance to stand on the footplate. But you could go watch the film and then go backstage, couldn't you? And have a look at the projection room and see what was doing, see how it happened.
That's right, yeah.
What's it like then up there then?
Fascinating. I used to thread the machines through the what they call the gate. Projectors were going, and in those days, you used to have a carbon arc. You used to look in the side of the projector, and there's two little marks, and you had to keep this. Now, I was allowed to do this. Little knobs to and keep this exact distance. Also, in those days, you could look through the glass, and at the screen, as the one reel was going to the end, the little dots appeared. Now, we used to start the other machine up.
So you didn't just see the film for free then, you had to do a bit of work?
Actually, it put me in good stead because later on, when I was working overseas, they had films to show. I was the only guy who could work one of these old projectors, so I was chief projector.
Of course, these days it's not a new cinema, it's a cinema that gives people an alternative to what the main big cinema chains with their multi-screens are showing. It'll show films that are unusual, perhaps have subtitles, or maybe films that you've not had the chance before to see on the big screen. Now, Mike, I not only used to come into this cinema many, many years ago when I lived in Newcastle, but also I went to the very big one of the big chains over the road there that's now half a dozen screens. I can't tell what it is. And yet, I don't get the impression that you're in any way in contention with them. You know, they've got the current releases. You've got different films, haven't you?
Well, I think the aim of Tyneside Cinema is really to try and show the widest range of world cinema, both in terms of geographical range, films from all over the world. We don't sort of shy away from Hollywood movies, but I think our aims are to try and encourage awareness and appreciation of all types of cinema, but also have, alongside the films that we screen, an educational program. It's a horrible word, education, in a way, because really my job, which is education development manager, should be sort of film enjoyment manager.
But I mean, it's not education like getting school parties in, is it? Or is it?
We do a lot of school parties, we have a lot of school groups and college groups, but we also do a lot of adult education. And the education work can range from possibly a screening in front of 300 school kids of, you know, an Emily Bronte adaptation or a Jane Austen novel where they have to study it at school. Or a lot of modern language teachers bring students for 2 hours to the cinema because it's the same length as the lesson, and possibly they would find it a lot more interesting to watch a film in French or a film in German rather than having a 2-hour lesson in French or German. And they can appreciate the film more and possibly understand the language.
Now, you talking about your policy there, I'm reminded of something that John Reith said at the start of the BBC. Somebody said to him, "Are you going to give the public what they want?" And he said, "No, something better."
I think it is. It's true that we do give people something extra. Whether or not we give them something better, I think that is true in a way, because if you want to see the latest Hollywood movie, you can see it absolutely anywhere. The films that we show are sometimes from request. I mean, the audiences do request titles, and we try to get them in. But we show films here that if we weren't here, nobody in the region would be able to see them.
Now, Mike, you've mentioned school kids and students, but obviously these days they grow up with videos and digital this and wide screens at home. I mean, they've got all that, or at school. I mean, is there really a place for a cinema?
I think they'll always, I believe anyway, been very, very positive about it. I think there'll always be a place for cinemas like this. Now, whether or not, how long that lasts, I'm not too sure. But I think in terms of schools and certainly younger children still have this sense of wonder about coming to the cinema.
Well, I'm glad to know that after all these years, films are still being shown in this building. although the function of the place has changed a little bit since my day. But of course they do a very good variety of films, and being Newcastle, of course, it's still a place where you might see something in black and white. How are you, the lads?